Okay, and that's what we need to explain. The idea, hey, let people still trade this so they can close out their positions so there's not chaos in the market, that's really getting abused, because what they are doing is trading hundreds of millions of bonds. Goldman Sachs is going out and pitching trade ideas, market dislocations to distressed hedge funds who are looking to buy something cheap in a crisis, and that's what they do. But this isn't a regular crisis. It's not a company going bankrupt. It is a war. And let's remind you, when you buy Russian government bonds, you are now lending to the Russian government. And when you buy Russian corporate bonds, you are helping that company succeed. So right now, Goldman Sachs is making markets and making money, which is certainly not in line with the spirit of the headline, we are winding down and leaving Russia. And John, the reason I wanted to do this, my takeaway, it doesn't matter how much Wall Street tries to rebrand itself with new slogans, it doesn't change. So if you are a vulture, be a vulture. But do not come flapping your wings to my window and call yourself a dove of peace, because all that Goldman is doing flies in the face of what all of the United States and our Western allies are trying to do. What does the administration say?
Determined to be the most lethal terrorist threat to the homeland today. White supremacy is terrorism.
You know, when I talk to senior administration officials, current and former officials, what they're saying is that they're very worried, and we hear President Biden say this all the time, they're very worried that if they punish Russia, they're going to end up harming Americans, and they're trying to be very careful not to do that. Of course, there are sanctions that they could do that would be more targeted, more direct, that might be able to cut off this kind of business. And I talked to Congressman Brad Sherman from California today, who is bringing forward legislation dealing with banks next week. He said it might be a good idea to close off this business that Goldman Sachs is involved in.
Ape Nation, what's going on, guys? It is Sunday, March 13th, 2022. And I know in the thumbnail I have Jon Stewart's interview with Spencer JAKAB highlighted, but that clip I just played for you aired on MSNBC yesterday, and I thought it was interesting, and I wanted to bring it to your attention in case you haven't heard about it yet. And from what I can gather, it seems as though that JP Morgan and Goldman and some of these other guys are making a huge profit right now based off a loophole with the Russian debt. And while we're all suffering, it seems as though the big banks are actually cashing in. And I guess that's the price of freedom, right? So I'm going to play the end of that interview that the MSNBC reporter did there. She did a good job. And then we'll get into Jon Stewart and Spencer JAKAB. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves,
cue the speeder.
This is the way.
But John, it's not just Goldman, right? Think about this ban on Russian oil. All of this is to try to squeeze these companies and hurt the Russian economy. And in turn, it's causing our gas prices to go up. But I actually read, it was from March 4th, a trade recommendation report from Goldman Sachs. And they wrote, we see LUKOIL, the Russian oil company, as the best recovery play of distressed Russian corporates. So you've got JP Morgan saying, here's a good play for this Russian oil company. At the same time, we're banning Russian oil, and the American consumer is suffering for it. How is this kosher?
Well, it's kosher because it's totally legal. And sometimes what's scandalous and what doesn't meet with some people's moral views of the world is legal. And that's the case here. You use the vulture analogy.
While you pay more money for everything, including gas, Goldman Sachs is helping Russia make money. And they're making money doing it. And so is JP Morgan, Chase, and all those folks. It's just, you're a sucker. Again, if you play by the rules in this country, you're a sucker. Because the people who run this country's 100% corrupt, run by criminals. You don't think so? Who do you think runs this fucking country? War criminals, literal war criminals. We're doing another war in Ukraine right now over a pipeline and energy resources and hegemony. This is what this is about. We're literally in bed with Nazis. We're figuratively in bed with Nazis to get this done.
Free, Jimmy. They told you.
I know. It's not free.
You have to get in bed with Nazis.
Okay.
Now, obviously, that's just Jimmy and Kurt's opinion. You guys have your own opinion on that, but I tend to agree it's a little hypocritical to be barking at us about paying the cost for freedom when the 1% in this country are actually making money off of our suffering. Okay, moving on. So let's talk about Jon Stewart and Spencer JAKAB. I just want to give a shout out to Jon Stewart for covering this again, using the word apes in his interviews. It's just been amazing. Just, you know, being almost a year after the buy button was taken away for GameStop, we're still relevant in the news. And this gives me hope that we're onto something here and we're on the right track, guys. So just a little background in case you don't know who Spencer JAKAB is. He wrote for the Wall Street Journal and he used to cover finance and Wall Street. He wrote a book recently that was just published in February called The Revolution That Wasn't, talking about GameStop and Reddit and how Wall Street played us. There is a lot. This is a long interview. It's a half an hour, just over a half an hour. And the one clip that I want to play for you is when Jon Stewart actually pins the question to Spencer JAKAB, why are Gary Gensler's hands tied? Watch.
What I'm saying is, if you reform the system of Wall Street, you automatically make it safer for the retail investor. But it's not the other way around.
Well, it is, because there are a lot of things that Wall Street doesn't want, right? I mean, you had Gary Gensler, you interviewed him, and he's like, oh, well, I work within the system I can work in. I mean, I think he's, as people atop the SEC go, he's pretty good, but his hands are really, really tied. You know, Jay
So
Clayton.
what's tying his hands? That's interesting. So what's tying his hands?
The fact that money buys influence in this country, and it always has.
Okay.
And so you have, you know, and so Wall Street kind of gets the rules that it wants.
But Spencer, look at me. Spencer, look at me. That's the problem.
Right.
Spencer, the problem isn't retail investors pooling together to try and gain the kind of power that is endemic on Wall Street. The problem is the power that's endemic on Wall Street. And what those guys exposed is the essence of what we have to change.
But
it's not changing the guardrails, it's changing the influence that money has on policy making. It's changing the complexities and lack of transparency. It's the problem with complexity is it's much easier to exploit those loopholes in the nooks and crannies than when something has been simplified to make it. And the complexity is there because that's how the big boys on Wall Street want it, because they know they can take advantage. So I don't understand why we're not wholly focused on reforming that part of the system, which will automatically make it safer for retail investors.
you know, I've been a financial journalist for a long time. This is not the
Okay, guys, so that's the 10-minute 39 mark when that little exchange ends. And really, I didn't even have to watch any more after this, because that, to me, is the bottom line on this market and the corruption that's going on right now. This starts at the very, very top. I've been saying it for a while now. Until you root out the corruption that is being compensated and allowing this to continue, these rules to be broken and bent and manipulated and all these things that they are doing, until you root out the people who allow it to continue, it will continue. There's too much money at stake. There's egos at stake. There's pride. There's reputation. And these people don't want to lose. So just something to think about tonight, guys, before the market opens tomorrow. Understand that this is coming down from the top, and we are at the very bottom right now, trying to scratch and crawl our way out of this pit that we've fallen into, this pit of uncertainty and manipulation and corruption. Use any word you want. The market is rigged, and we are working to fix it. And until it's fixed, I'll be here with you guys. I'll be uploading videos, and we'll be breaking down material. Like I said, I want to get into this deeper tomorrow night. We'll go live. So, guys, if you get a chance, go watch the whole interview, so that if you want to come on the live stream tomorrow night, I want to hear your thoughts and opinions. I want feedback from the community. And there's a couple other things that I've talked to some other creators about. that I want to get into. So stay tuned for that. It's getting late, guys. It's Sunday night. I hope you guys have a great week tomorrow. Hopefully AMC takes off and we get some price action moving in the right direction. And as always, guys, thank you for all my viewers, my likers, my commenters, my new subscribers, my OGs. I appreciate each and every one of you. We are here to break the wheel. This is Ape Nation. I'm the Massalorian, and I'm out.